Australia's best sprint car competitors out on the track here at Bunbury. Bunbury will be the home of the national titles to be held here in early 98. Well, the A-Main about to come your way, but we check out highlights from an earlier heat race. Fair bit of commotion goes on here. Most of the competitors get through, but trouble in the background. And Dennis Burford going for a very wild ride. Let's take a look at that on the replay now. Watch for the 66 Austrac car of Alan Haynes. He strikes trouble, gets sideways. Terry Bracken makes contact and Burford off the wheel of Bracken and along for the ride. Well, quite obviously the car sustaining some substantial damage, but Burford being able to get away from it cleanly. Take a look at it now, onto the big huge wing, up and through the air, on the fence, and a heavy landing. Well, to call the A-Main, your commentator is Wade Oranger.
Well, there's a sight to gladden the heart of any true blue sprint car enthusiast. 16 of the fastest cars at Bunbury City and Regional Raceway for round 3 of the World Series Sprint Cars. And this promises to be a cracker. Local hero Ron Cricky sandwiched in between 3 interstate drivers. Gary Rush on the pole line. Skip Jackson starts the outside front. South Aussie Trevor Green having another great run here at Bunbury. Ooh, contact between he and Cricky. And we are underway in round 3 of the World Series Sprint Cars. Rush hooks a rut there. Skip Jackson back in charge, and the skilled engineering number 7 throws it into turn 3 and 4. Rushy back in the second spot. Oh, trouble back up in turn 1 and 2. Max Dumsney in trouble in the number 5 Valvoline machine. I don't know what caused that, but certainly Max Dumsney would not want to be in this much trouble this early. Pino Priolo, he's also been involved in the IKEA number 8 Gambler. You can see him to the left of the car, working on that main wing and the rear end of the car. Well, with Skip Jackson at the head of the field and Gary Rush right behind him, we're set for a classic confrontation here of youth versus experience, although you have to say, although Jackson is tender in terms of his age, certainly lacks nothing in race experience. Brooke Tatnell traditionally fares very well at Bunbury City and Regional Raceway. Just ahead of him is Murphy Housecar driver Terry Cutts. Well, look at Skip motoring around this big circuit, newly revamped for the upcoming Australian Championships in late February. And Skip Jackson would I guess be one of the favourites if he is in fact able to stay for the event. He's generally back in the USA around that time. Out of turn number 4, one of the most appropriate sponsorships in Speedway racing. Skilled Engineering and Skip Jackson combining. Gary Rush celebrating another year with the Castrol team. Rockets out of turn number 2, trying to run this young man down. For the last 6 years, Skip's been a full-time racer, running 6 months in the USA and 6 months here in Australia. And every year, Gary Rush has made the comment that that's what makes Skip so unstoppable. Continual race practice and continual race trim. Down the back chute into turn number 3, Trevor Green, the South Aussie, he's back in the 3rd spot. Mark Wells in 4th, and South Australian Phil March, who has struck a real purple patch. And the Maxwell Motors, Les March Autos, number 3, just hooked the curb a little bit there. It cost him a lot of ground. Bunbury is a momentum track. Got to keep good sharp lines all the way through. Try not to scrub off too much speed. Brooke Tatnell and the Shell Helix number 8 working the Cutts Transport. 16 Murphy over as they storm into turn 1 and 2 at Bunbury City and Regional Raceway. Track looks like it's holding up pretty nicely. Plenty of moisture in the circuit. And Brooke Tatnell, as we were saying earlier, always does well here. Whether or not he can run down Terry Cutts, I'm not sure. Good crowd in attendance. The World Series Sprint Cars continuing to pull good numbers. Local hero Ron Cricky, who qualified right up the front, in fact on the 2nd row, is not sighted here at the moment. Look at him steam up that right rear tyre. Must be a bit of humidity in the air. You can see him just starting to steam the right rear. Be a little bit later in the race before anybody starts to heat up the right rear tyre too much. In fact, I wouldn't see anyone's rubber really going off. Plenty of moisture in the surface. Skip Jackson continuing to dominate round 3 of the World Series Sprint Cars. He's the defending champ of this series. He hails from Hurstville in New South Wales. Well, he's not living, of course, in downtown Knoxville, Iowa, where he calls home for 6 months of the year. Pretty good time to be in Australia, Skip, given that it is snowing and snowing hard at Knoxville. He's coming up now to lap South Australian driver Peter Smith in the collar type labels number 8. Been a pretty tough run for Smithy on this western swing so far. Skip sizes him up. This is where Skip is so good in traffic, although just at the moment Peter Smith providing him some headaches. I guess that Skip wouldn't know how close or even how far Rush was away. In fact, there he is. So you need to be careful. Gary Rush, with so many years of experience, he's so street smart in traffic. And that's where quite often you'll find he makes the difference. Skip is through now, and he'd be pretty content to put that lap car of Peter Smith between himself and your second place driver, Rush. Well, Trevor Green is coming on now. The number 4, Adrad, J&J, really starting to put together a good run. Has he got what it takes to pass this man on screen? That's going to be the interesting battle, because Skip Jackson has left the building. Driving away out in front. Rushy running the bottom where just about everybody is. It's starting to slick off a little through the middle. You can see the dust just where the cushion starts to form halfway through the track. In fact, down on the bottom, the track is going away just a little. That's going to require some smarts on the part of these guys trying to come through the field. Mark Wells in the PMFM 92.9 Performance Direct Kendrick Racing outfit. Wellsy generally is right up the front of the order through all 3 rounds of this series. Last year at Kalgoorlie, he was unbelievable, coming from the rear to run second to Max Dumsney. This weekend, a little bit quieter by Mark's own standards. As Greeny runs deep into turn 1 and 2. It's a really big circuit, Bunbury City Regional Raceway. It used to be smaller than Claremont Speedway. When they made the change to Claremont and shortened it up by about 50 metres, promoter Con Migro said that this place is in fact now bigger than Claremont. They get some frightening speeds around this place. White hooky, deep red clay gives them plenty of drive. But you can see it's still very important to keep the car straight. Trevor Green doing a nice job. Rush getting away just a little bit now. Looks like he's going to really struggle to pick Jackson up. But back in third spot, they're pretty evenly spaced. You can see Trevor Green in the third spot, followed by Mark Wells in fourth, and Phil March having a good run. Oh, yellows are on. Jackson slows up on the main straight. Someone's come to a stop. It's one of the Kendrick cars. No, in fact, it's Anthony Lambert in the Club Crocodile Ferguson Motorsports 77. It's a disappointing result for the Queenslander. Oh, and right behind him is Mark Wells with suspected driveline failure. The PMFM 92.9 car. 2 big names out of round 3. Restart, and Skip Jackson in total command. On these restarts, he's so sharp. Watch how the car just lays down and drives away. Into turn number 3 and 4. Now, Rush is right there with him as they go into the turn. But look at the ground he opens up coming out of the corners. Man, that is one race car that is going forward. Max Dumsney, who would have had to come from the rear, I imagine, if he's got involved in that first corner restart. So sitting right behind Cuts just at the moment. So Max is on the move. Brooke Tatnell has been able to shift Cuts one spot further back. Phil March's purple patch continues, and that's good news. Well, Tatnell very lucky there. Pitched the corner in high, was trying to pinch off the corner and get out on the inside of March. Nearly opened the door for Terry Cuts, who was sitting right there in his draft. Trevor Green continuing a very consistent run for the man that they call Fast Time. Down the back chute and into turn 3. Does keep that car very straight. Good battle starting to work out for the 4th, 5th and 6th spot now, as Rush is probably scratching his head just at the moment. The 53-year-old veteran from Kellyville in New South Wales. Last season of racing for the great man of sprint cars, the undisputed king of Australian Speedway racing. Over 30 years of competition, racing back in the Westmead days at Sydney Showground. But probably the most celebrated part of his career was his dominance of Parramatta City Raceway. And in the last 10 years, really, circuits throughout Australia. A winner of over 300 main events, they believe. Jackson, fast becoming perhaps the Gary Rush of the future. This talented but very quietly spoken young man wheels the car into turn number 3 and 4 that was built by his brother Jeff, who has been experimenting with speed car chassis over the last few years, and steps in, gives his brother a very fast sprint car. The first one is built right off the bat, and Skip just calls this a pretty basic, normal old car. Tell you what, it's giving some pretty state-of-the-art equipment behind him, an absolute flogging. Rush continuing to try and come up with something that'll run Jackson down, although I don't know that Gary even knows what that might be. Jackson's car is so fast off the corners. You saw it on that restart, it just drove away from Rushy. And Gary, who admits himself he never has anything but the very best of equipment, must be wondering how on earth he's going to run the young man down. The track is really starting to slick off in places now. You can see fine particles of dust in the air, especially out of turn 4. Let's watch Trevor Green as he comes off the turn. Look at the tyres. Yep, it is slicking off right through the middle. So the option really now is for Green to either run further down the bottom or get up above the slick stuff and try and run the heavier clay up top. You've got to hope then, of course, that there's enough drive out there for you to do it. Getting off that quick line can sometimes be racing suicide. Out of form, and Brooke Tatnall's car set very tight. If you watch the way it goes into the corners, see the way that the front wheels push to the left-hand side of the track, but the car still runs deep into the corners. He's a lot more tight than anybody else out there. Look at that, pushing right through the corners. He's got a lot of ground to make up. Oh, trouble here in turn number 3 and 4. South Aussie Chaz Calandro stuck the 33 Castrol car into the wall. Well, that's a shame for Calandro, who was running pretty consistently through the field. Crash crews are onto the scene to put the 33 car back on all fours. Wouldn't be a huge amount of damage. He was able to scrub off quite a lot of the speed. So you've got to be careful when you're a crash crew standing on the wall side. When the car is laid back on its wheels, the wing generally falls down and bangs someone on the scone. Oh, well, unfortunately, Phil March on the infield with a smoking motor. What a shame for Phil. He was really flying around this place, looking down the barrel at a top 5. No risk at all. Back at the restart, Skip Jackson, Gary Rush. Here comes Brooke Tatnall looking to the outside. Well, we talked about that car being tight, where it runs deeper into the corners. It's understeering into the turns, but it's very quick off the corners, and unfortunately it didn't quite come off then. Trevor Green a little too quick through the centre of the circuit. Rush has struck a balance, but the man who's got certainly sprint car chemistry going at his brilliant best here is Skip Jackson. A couple of vapour trails coming off the wing, so the air is fairly cool down here at Bunbury. Look at Skip Jackson, drives into the corner and back across the corner and out. Gee, he's fast. Checkered flag is out. Skip Jackson, Gary Rush, Trevor Green, Brooke Tatnall, Terry Cutts, Max Dumsney, Ron Cricky, and a fabulous drive from the little bloke from Hurstville. Does the job in the skilled engineering O'Brien Aluminium number 7 Jackson car.
Well,